Hello there. I'm Moses. You know, the one with the staff and the, pardon the sea thing? Yeah, that's me. Our story begins a long, long time ago in a land called Egypt. It was a place of great pyramids, powerful pharaohs, and, well, a whole lot of sand. Picture this. A grand palace gleaming in the sun, the mighty Nile River teeming with life, and in the distance, those famous pyramids reaching up to touch the sky. But for my people, the Hebrews, Egypt wasn't so great. We were slaves, forced to work under the hot sun day after day, building monuments to a pharaoh who didn't care about us one bit.
Every Hebrew boy that is born must be thrown into the Nile.
God has a plan for you, my son. Trust in him, and he will guide your path.
My mother, brave as she was, had a different plan for me. A plan that involved a basket, some reeds, and a whole lot of hope. Can you imagine it? A tiny baby, floating down the biggest river you've ever seen, with crocodiles and hippos all around. Talk about your extreme water parks.
A baby? Oh, you poor little thing. I shall call you Moses, for I drew you out of the water.
And just like that, I went from floating down the Nile to living in the palace. Talk about your extreme home makeovers.
Here, take this bread. I know you're hungry.
Thank you, young prince. May God bless you.
As I grew older, I couldn't ignore the suffering of my people. One day, I saw something I couldn't unsee.
Stop. You can't treat him like that.
How dare you interfere, prince or not?
In my anger, well, let's just say things got out of hand. And suddenly, I wasn't Prince Moses anymore. I was just Moses, running for his life into the desert.
What have I done? Where do I go now?
Little did I know, this was just the beginning of my journey. God had big plans for me, even if I didn't know it yet. But first, I had a lot of sand in my sandals to deal with. So there I was, minding my own business, herding sheep in the middle of nowhere. You know, just your average day in the life of a former prince turned shepherd. That's when I saw it. A bush that was on fire, but wasn't burning up.
Is anyone else seeing this? No, just me. Okay, then.
Moses.
Yes, who's there?
I am the God of your fathers. I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt.
Me? I think you might have the wrong guy. I'm just a shepherd, and not even a very good one at that. Well, when you put it that way. But wait, what if they don't believe me?
I will be with you, Moses.
And that's when things got really interesting. God gave me a staff that could turn into a snake. The wooden staff writhed and transformed into a hissing cobra right before my eyes.
But Lord, I've never been good with words. I stutter and stammer.
What about your brother Aaron? He can speak well. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth.
And just like that, I went from shepherding sheep to leading an entire nation. Talk about a career change.
Well, guys, it's been fun, but duty calls. Try not to miss me too much, okay?
Brother, it's been so long. God told me to meet you here.
Aaron, boy, am I glad to see you. We've got a big job ahead of us.
And so, with my brother by my side, we set off to face Pharaoh. Little did we know, things were about to get a whole lot more plaguey. Remember how I said things were about to get plaguey? Well, buckle up, kids, because it's about to get real. And I mean really, 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 really.
Let my people go.
And who are you to demand anything of me, Moses? You're no longer a prince here. You're nothing.
Those words stung. I'll admit. But I knew I had something Pharaoh didn't. God on my side.
Okay, here goes nothing.
Suddenly, the mighty Nile turned red as fruit punch. Fish floated to the surface, and the Egyptians held their noses.
Is that all you've got, Moses? A little water magic?
But it wasn't. Next came the frogs. Thousands of them, hopping everywhere. They were in the beds, in the ovens, even in Pharaoh's fancy hat. Speaking of flies, they were next, along with gnats and all sorts of creepy crawlies. The air was thick with buzzing insects. But Pharaoh still wouldn't budge. So then came sick cattle, boils, hail, and locusts. Each plague was worse than the last, turning Egypt into a real mess. Then came the darkness. For 3 whole days it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It was like the whole world had been wrapped in a thick black blanket. But even after all that, Pharaoh's heart was hard as a rock. And then came the last plague, the worst one of all.
God will pass through Egypt tonight. Every firstborn will die, from Pharaoh's son to the animals in the field, unless
Unless what, brother?
they mark their doors with lamb's blood. Our people must do this to be spared. This will be the first Passover.
That night, as I walked through the streets, hearing the cries of the Egyptians, my heart was heavier than I thought possible. This was the cost of freedom, and it was a terrible price.
Go, take your people and leave. I can bear no more of your God's wrath.
Quick, gather your things. It's time to go. Our long wait is over.
And just like that, after 430 years in Egypt, we were free. The streets were filled with Hebrews, carrying bundles, children, and hope for a better future. But our journey? Oh, it was far from over. In fact, the biggest challenge was just around the corner, or should I say, just across the sea. Well, folks, remember how I said we were free? Turns out Pharaoh had other ideas.
Pharaoh commands you to return, all of you. Mr. Moses, sir, why are they chasing us? I thought we were free now.
We are free, little one, but freedom isn't always easy. Sometimes you have to keep moving forward, even when it's scary.
We're trapped. Moses, what were you thinking? Did you lead us out here to die?
Trust in the Lord. He has not brought us this far to abandon us now. Have faith, my people.
But between you and me, I was starting to have some doubts myself.
Lord, I trust in you, but if you have a plan, now would be a really good time to let me in on it.
Raise your staff over the sea, Moses, and watch what I will do.
And then, well, let's just say things got a little breezy.
Look, the sea, it's splitting.
Quick, everyone, cross now while the path is open.
The sea stood like walls on either side of us. Fish swam by at eye level, looking just as confused as we were.
Look, Mama, I can see a dolphin, and there's a big fish over there. After them, don't let them escape.
Hurry, we're almost there.
Now, Moses, it is finished.
Lord, let your will be done. Let us sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously.
And there we were, on the other side of the sea, on the other side of slavery. Our journey was far from over, but in that moment, we knew that with faith, anything was possible, even parting the sea itself. Well, folks, we've come a long way from that little basket in the Nile, haven't we? But our journey wasn't over yet. In fact, the biggest challenge was still ahead. And by ahead, I mean straight up.
Who knew mountains could be so tall?
As I climbed Mount Sinai, the air around me began to shimmer and glow. It was like walking through a rainbow. It was like walking through a rainbow.
Moses, I will give you my commandments. These will guide my people to live in harmony and righteousness.
And then, something amazing happened. The sky lit up with 10 brilliant streams of light, each a different color. They danced and swirled around me like shooting stars. Each beam of light carried a commandment, glowing with divine energy.
Wow, it's like a cosmic light show up here.
With the tablets in hand, I made my way back down the mountain. The people were waiting, and boy, did I have a story for them.
People of Israel, God has given us these commandments to live by. They will guide us in our new life of freedom.
But Mr. Moses, why do we need rules if we're free?
That's a great question. You see, these aren't just rules, they're a recipe for a happy life and a better world.
As the sun set behind Mount Sinai, casting a golden glow over our camp, I felt a sense of
You know, I think we're going to be just fine.
And that, my friends, is where our story, well, not ends, but begins anew. Because every ending is just the start of a new adventure.